So I decided to make all new videos this semester. So every week I will be redoing some of the ones that I've done in the past and adding different assignments. So with this new software, the interface looks a little different when you start it. Instead of having this big icon that says getting started, it actually has here on the left side these panels open and new. So if you have the older release and you have the big button that says getting started, click on that, but otherwise click on here new. So you'll start a brand new drawing here and yours might look a little different than mine. Just know that at this point the grid is on, and this is our very first video, so I'm going to try to bring it back to the basics. At the bottom right corner you'll see that there are icons that are blue and some that are not blue. The ones that are blue are on, so that the icon right next to model is the grid. So let's go ahead and click on that blue icon. You see what happens when you click on it again. The grid is coming on and off, so you'll know that the ones that are on are blue, and keep those on because I'm using the defaults. Now, because I've been using AutoCAD for a lot of different things, I may have a little different defaults here, but as I go through the assignment, I will point out those things that we'll need to update. So right now I just turned off the grid there at the bottom and introduced to you that there are some icons down there. And then the ribbon right here really shows everything that's in this home tab. So you'll see all these different tabs like insert and annotate. There are a lot of different tools within these menus, but for now we're going to stay on the home tab. And because we started a brand new drawing, there it is right there. Yours is probably going to say drawing 1. We haven't named it yet as we're looking at this. The thing about the ribbon is that sometimes over here at the end of all these words, you'll see this little small white box with an arrow inside, and if you click on it, what happens is the ribbon gets smaller, right? It condenses down to just boxes, and then if you click on it again, you get just words for each one of the ribbons. So at this point, you could kind of just rest your pointer on each one of these words, which represents each one of the ribbons, or continue clicking here, this white little box with an arrow, until you get this kind of full screen, and then one more time to kind of cycle through all of those different ways that you can look at the ribbon. That happens often. It could condense down because of this, and so keep that in mind as you're working forward. We're going to keep the ribbon on so you can kind of see the different panels. And so we have a draw panel, modify, annotation, layers. These are the type of things that we're going to be looking at in this class. So getting started, the most important part of the whole screen to look at is at the bottom. At the bottom it says type a command. This is your command line. This is your dialogue with AutoCAD. If you're trying to figure out what's going on, what we're going to do in this class is kind of teach you how to talk to and understand that dialogue, that command line down there. So to start something, let's here at the top click on the line icon. We're using the left mouse button as a way of selecting objects, so use your left mouse button to click on here the line. Now you can look at here at the bottom, it says line specify first point, so you click your first point, and then next point you click another point. As you're randomly clicking these points, because we're just getting started, you notice that your command line changes. It says or, and then in brackets it's close or undo. Well, if I click right on the word undo, or I could type in the letter U, which is kind of like the capital letter right there, you can undo one line segment at a time. So as I'm clicking, I'm placing lines, and we still have this little kind of like rubber band effect at the end of your pointer. That's not a line yet, but if I click on close, it's going to close back to the first point that I picked. So it ends the command and it closes right back to the first point that I picked. Okay, so the right click menu is So as you're starting to draw these lines and you click the line icon and you click and you click and you click, you have a choice of how to end the command. You can close it back to the first point that you picked, or you can press the enter on the keyboard or use the right mouse button. So when you think about it, the right mouse button is kind of used as an enter. So you right click and you pick enter. So if that gets to be a little too much, then just use the enter key on the keyboard to enter. Right click and picking enter will give you this closure back to the command line at type of command. All right, now use your escape key on the keyboard at the top left corner. It's ESC. You see what happens when you select that? When you click on ESC, and I'm clicking on it several times, I'm just showing you here that it will cancel out of the command. So if you're in the middle of the command, you don't want it to do what you're working with, you can cancel that out. At the very top left side here of the screen, you'll see the arrow for undo. So and a little arrow next to that arrow, so you could undo right back to the beginning of your session. Even if you saved it, you can undo it. So just kind of be careful there when you use this menu. But if I click on the undo button just once, that arrow's to the left there, I'll get rid of that last line that I drew. But the redo buttons now appear, so you're redoing the last undo. I'm going to go ahead and pick redo, and it brings it back, just to show you that's what's happening. Okay, so a little bit of drafting here, getting used to left click, right click menu buttons. When you click right on top of an object, when you put your pointer right on top of it and left click, you'll get these blue grips. We're not going to use those right now, but we are going to use those a lot in this class. For now, use the escape key. This is one way to get rid of them, is to click on the escape key. So if you click in space, not on an object, and you pull your mouse to the left, notice what happens. You get this green box. You're not really drawing a box, you're selecting objects. So you're clicking in space, you're pulling your mouse across those objects. All of the objects that are completely inside the box and crossing over the box are going to be selected. See that? I'm going to use my escape key to get out of that. Now click in space again and go pull your mouse to the right. You are not drawing a blue box or any kind of lines at all. You didn't tell AutoCAD what the command was. You just clicked in space and pulled your mouse to the right. And you clicked and let go, that's the thing, and then you pulled your mouse to the right, and only the objects completely inside the box will be selected. So it helps you a little bit with the selection. Use your escape key to get out of that. Now what could happen is you hold your left mouse button down in the space, the space and not on top of an object. If you hold your left mouse button down and you start to move your mouse, as you hold the mouse button down, you're creating this kind of polygon or polyline, and you can have a little bit more control over what you're selecting. If you hold your left mouse button down in space and pull your mouse to the right, same idea. The objects have to be completely inside, but instead of clicking and letting go and creating a box, you're creating this polygon. All right. So with the object selected, you actually can pick an icon to start the command. So if you have these objects that are selected, if you pick the erase icon, they're going to disappear. That's a part of either starting the command first and selecting the objects and entering them, or selecting the objects and clicking on the icon. We won't be working with that too much, but that is a way of working with it. And now we want to undo that, maybe to get our lines back. We can go back up to the U at the top left, or even type in U for undo to get those objects back. Hey, I hope you have a mouse with a wheel. If you have the wheel of the mouse, probably a good idea to get one. You can roll the wheel back here to zoom. It's zooming to your pointer, or you can roll it here for zooming. You can hold the wheel down to move your mouse and pan. So you're not moving the objects, you're moving the view, holding your wheel down. Or you can double click, kind of a real quick double click on the wheel of your mouse, and then that will help you to do what's called a zoom extents, where you can see all of your objects, and then you can roll the wheel back a little to get those objects in place, and maybe even hold the wheel down to pan it. Now, if you don't have the wheel, we do have this navigation bar over here on the far right side that has some zoom commands like pan and zoom right here. You can play around with those a little. There is this 2D wheel, which is handy if you have a laptop and you don't have your mouse at all. That's what I use. You can click on the 2D wheel. There's a 3D wheel when we get into 3D too. So here's the zoom here. Pretending now or thinking that you don't have a mouse with the wheel on it, or your laptop without a mouse at all, you can hold your left mouse button down here on the zoom, word zoom, and kind of move your mouse up and down. See, it's not a left and right, it's an up and down. Or pan, you can hold your left mouse button down on pan and pan. Now I think rewind is really cool because it will kind of rewind the views. So you see how it's kind of bringing me through the different views. If you wanted to use that, that's a part of using this 2D wheel. I'm going to go ahead and close out of that because I have a wheel on my mouse, and I think it's worth the investment if you could grab one if you don't have one. Okay, then we are moving forward and would like to get started. We will experience those commands as we go, so that we don't spend a whole lot of time talking about them, but we spend the time doing and learning as we go. So in this drawing here, we want to save it. Let's save it as assignment 1. And so up at the top, we have this red A. We have all of these icons that are very similar to the ones at the top left. So you can use the quick access icons, or you can come down here and save it by clicking on save. The floppy disk icon here and here. Once you do that, you'll be able to navigate over to whatever folder that you'd like to save these in. Maybe you need to create a new folder so that you can have a different class. This is fall of 2021. And I probably already have something in there. No? Okay, so there's my folder. I'm going to make sure I'm inside of it. And you go ahead and save your file somewhere on your computer. Hey, if you happen to be using Splashtop as a server software through Macomb, you will not be able to save your file on a flash drive or into your computer. You'll need to save it through the OneDrive. Okay, so I'm going to click here to replace this drawing.dwg with assignment 1. Now notice that it's saving it as an extension DWG, and it's saving all of those releases from 18 all the way up to 22. So I'm going to go ahead and pick save. All right. Now assignment 1 that we're starting with, I have a drawing here right there. This is the beginning stage of drafting. We're going to jump right in with it. And in fact, I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. This will be also posted for your convenience. And I'm going to condense that down. You see how when you have a smaller screen, some of the panels are going to fold up, right? They're going to be little boxes. So yours probably show the full panel of these. Mine is only showing here the full panel of the draw and the modify. All right. So I don't really need these lines because we use them to kind of practice a little bit. I'm going to pick the erase icon first This is a different way of doing it. So click the erase icon, which is in the modify panel right there, and look at your command line. It says erase and it says select the objects. So I'll click in space and let go at the top right side of the screen, pull my mouse across so they're all selected. You can see that they're getting lighter, and click. They're all selected. Now this is the part of the command line you have to kind of like just know. When you select something and you're done selecting, press enter or right click. Right click is like a pressing enter, right? And guys, this is all stuff that we're going to be using over and over again for different assignments. So as we start to build our experiences, we're going to practice and build, practice and build. And so all of this will be in the next assignment also. So you start the erase command, you select your objects, and you right click or pick enter, and you're back at the screen. Now what we did was we kind of randomly drew lines, but if you start the line command and you click a point, which is going to represent this top left corner right here, notice that when you pull your mouse around, you should have this kind of green extended tracking vector when you pull your mouse straight to the right. Don't click. Just pull your mouse in that direction. Now, you'll only see that green tracking vector if you have these blue icons down here that are the default icons. I've taught some companies where they turn this one off, and we need to have polar tracking, and we need to have this object snap tracking, so that and whatever other one is down there in blue as default. So hold pull your mouse towards the right, don't click or hold your left mouse button down, type in 2 and enter. You see, now we created that line that was 2. So here's the idea. You pull your mouse straight down, you type in 2, because that's our next line, and enter. See over here? Pull your mouse straight to the right, type in 2, and enter. We're not clicking. The only point that we clicked was that very first one. So this is called direct distance entry. We're going to pull our mouse in the direction we want to go in and type in the distance. So we're pulling our mouse down and typing in 2.5 and enter. We won't need to have the zeros there at the end. Pull your mouse straight to the left, don't click, type in 3 and enter. I'm getting the 3 from here, this dimension that represents the length of that line. So this is 0.5. 0.5 is that little line going straight up. So I'm pulling my mouse straight up and typing in 0.5 and enter. And now I'm going to pull my mouse to the left and type in 2.5 and enter. Straight up 2.5 and enter. You're not clicking, right? You can pull your mouse to the right and type in 1.5 and enter. And then if you didn't have to stop within this whole flow of lines, you can go down to the close command here and click on close. It's in the command line, or type in C for close. Now, if for some reason you got out of this loop of objects, let's say you still have a line or two, you have to pick it up, you can still start the line command and go close to that line at the end and see that object snap, this green box that represents the endpoint, and click. And pull your mouse up here and click, and then right click and pick enter. So we have all of those possibilities that we'll be working with as we start to work with those options. And I would like to show you where that is in case it's turned off. Down here at the very bottom, there is a blue icon that's kind of like a square right here. It's called Object Snap. That should be blue almost all the time. And next to it is the arrow that represents all of these different object snaps, which are kind of like geometric positions on an object. I might have a few more than you do on, that's for sure, because I was using this before. So I don't think you have centers or quadrants or nodes. I don't even think you have midpoints. Some of the defaults that came with it are very basic, like endpoints, intersections, probably extensions as we start to work with that. And I think that's it. If a couple of other ones are are checked and you just loaded it, and just you can just leave them. These are running and always on, and we'll be using these a lot during the semester. Okay, so we just drew all of those objects on layer 0. This is another topic I'm introducing in this first assignment so that we can use it and start to develop drawings that we can use for a portfolio. If you look at my PDF here, if I get close enough, you'll see that the lines are thicker, right? They're wider. They're wider. And by default, this default line is not bold. It's only 0.25. That's the default. But we'll take a look at that too. So what we do sometimes is we create these layers to put the objects on a layer and make that layer, bolder. So under the, I'm going to make this smaller so that I can show you the layers panel. There. Right there. All right. So under the layers panel right here, we have this layer 0, and if you click right here on the arrow or right next to layer 0, you'll see that you only have one layer. That's it, layer 0. So what we're going to do is click on layer properties right here. There's a big button, layer properties, and we have this layer property manager. There's only one layer, layer 0. We'll probably talk about that. We'll talk about that a little bit more when we talk about blocks. At the very top here of the layer properties manager, you'll see this icon that has a stack of papers with the little sun icon, and it just says new layer. Go ahead and click on that. And this is going to be for our objects. So type in the word objects and then press enter twice. That should get you to the next layer, or click on the new layer icon. I like to combine the dimensions and the text on one layer, but every company has different standards. There are associations that are trying to standardize this, and you might work with a company that will use those general standards. But first thing you want to find out is what are our company standards? What layers are we using, so that you know what objects and layers that are used in your company, and those layers are like where the objects will be held, right? And it's great to have different layers because you can turn them on and off, and I'll get into the difference between these two later. But there's a sun icon and a light bulb icon. Those will turn it on and off, and this will lock it. There's a way of like locking the lines so that you can see them and print them, but they, you won't be able to move them or work with them. And this plot column, you don't want that on, right? If I click on it, you see that little red dot? No, you don't want that in there, because you'll be able to see it, but you won't be able to print it. So for the first maybe 4 or 5 assignments, we're going to keep all of this on. So these should all be yellow and no red dots next to this plot, these little plotters. But we will be changing the color just to make sure that we have objects on the right layer. So for the objects layer, I just highlighted it by clicking on objects. I'm going to click on the word white. We have a bunch of layers, 256, I believe, and more. 256, yeah. And so what we could do is use any of these colors, but most companies are using, here at the bottom of this color palette, you'll see the strip of colors. This is like color 1, 2, 3, 4, the first set of colors right there. Hey guys, if you have a black background, you don't need to have a white color, or if you have a white background, you don't have to have a black color. I have a white background. I should have told you that, but hey, yours is probably black, which is fine. I only use this so that you can see it, and especially when I'm in the classroom with all the glaring going on, I'm using the white-black background. So your standards will probably have specific colors. I'm going to say, because you're working with a black background, go ahead and use yellow, green, light blue, some of those colors. I have a white background, so I'm going to go ahead and use like red and blue, which tend to be a little bit darker. And I love this color right here, color 7. Color 7, I'm probably going to use that one. That is the default color, white, and it will print black, right? And it will look like it's white on a black background and black on the white background. So you really don't need these colors down here, guys. We don't need a layer that's black at all, really. There are different shades if you're getting into some renderings here. So I'm going to use white for this one, but this other one, for sure, we want to have different colors. So I'll click on the word white and make that something else, like red or something. So that way we can tell that the objects are on the right layer. And now we're going to change the line weight. That's what we're doing for the objects layer, which is the layer that we're going to put all these main objects on. Highlight the object layer, and then over here where it says line weight, and you can see the beginning of what says default. Hey guys, just so you know, I did resize this column by putting my pointer on that little line between the column headings, sort of like Windows Excel, I think. Hold your left mouse button down and kind of like drag it. You can even double click on that line and it'll make it, as long as it needs to be to show you that. So we're clicking on the word default, and we're going to do this so many times that it will come naturally as you work with these assignments. The default is 0.25. So we're going to go down to click something really bold like 0.60. 0.60 millimeters, pick OK. And now we've set up different colors. We've created our layers. We have the objects layer a little bit darker or bolder. And now we want to, we would want to set the objects layer current if we were drawing on it. And we'll be doing that in a different assignment. But because we've already drawn them, and I'm going to show you how to move objects to a different layer, we're going to double click on the little sheet of paper there just to the left of dim text. What that does is it makes the dim text layer current, because we're going to start placing these kind of dimensions. Okay, so double click on the little sheet of paper here to put that green check mark in there, and look what it does. It puts that layer at the top of this this layers panel. I can close out of the layer properties manager now by clicking the X here at the top left corner. Okay, so see this drop down? We have these layers, and some companies will have hundreds of layers, or maybe just 5 or 10. But the idea behind this is that I want to be able to move all those objects to the objects layer, because right now, if I go close to one of these lines and I just rest my pointer on it and see what it shows, it shows that the layer is 0. And your company standards are probably not going to say to keep the objects on layer 0. So what I need to do is to select these lines, whether you select them all individually or you click and let go in space and pull your mouse across and click. You have all of them selected, right? So I'm going to click, pull your mouse across and click. All of them are selected. It says that they're on layer 0, but I'm going to drop this list down here and click right on the objects layer right there. And now they're on the objects layer. Actually, you know what? I'm going to change the color of the objects layer. Another way to change the color of the layer is to drop this list down and click right on the box for the color right there. I'm going to change that to blue just so you can see it and pick OK. Now I have dim text and I have objects. Hey, everything's selected, so look what happens when I rest my pointer on dim text. They're going to all move to that layer and take on the color. So I'm going to click on objects right there. And then I'll use my escape key to get rid of the grips. So that's what I did. I created a layer called objects, and I set the line weight and the color. And now, because we want to draw on the dim text layer, we can set it current either in layer properties or right here. So if I want to make a layer current, I just drop this list out and click right on top of the word dim text or whatever the layer is. Okay. So it doesn't show the line weight until you print. There is a way of showing it on the screen, but it's more informational, and I'll pick that up in a different video. When we preview it, when we print it, we're going to be able to see the line weight. And like I said, most companies have a standard that says, here's the layer that's going to be blue, and it's going to be a bold here line weight. Okay, so moving forward, we're going to start putting these dimensions here, and what I might do is just make this a little bit smaller. Hey, did you guys know, I just learned this not too long ago. In a PDF file, you can hold your control key down and use the wheel. Maybe some of you already know that. I have known for a little bit, but it's kind of cool to learn. Hold your control key down and roll the wheel to zoom in and out of a PDF. Okay, so all right, in the annotation panel, there is this big icon that says dimensions. We're not going to use it. It is used for kind of a quick dimensioning, but it does kind of throw things off a little bit at times. And so over here at the top right corner of the annotation panel, we'll click on the little arrow next to this linear icon, and these are some of the dimensions that we're going to be taking a look at. So let's go to linear. Right there. We're going to click the top left corner, click the top right corner of that line that's 2, pull your mouse up and click. So it's 3 points that you're clicking. The first extension line, the second extension line, and where you want to put the number. Now you can see that the number has too many zeros, so the precision hasn't been set yet. We're going to type in D, the letter D, anywhere. You don't have to click down to the command line in order to type it in there. Just type in D. It goes actually to your pointer. D, and enter. This is going to be your dimension style manager. We're only going to really introduce it very quickly, but as we work with different assignments, we're going to have different commands that will change in here. So we're changing the standard style, but eventually we're going to create our own so that we are not using the one that comes with here AutoCAD. You may already have your own company standard dimension style here. So what we want to do is change it. So we'll click the modify button. So we typed in D and enter. We're going to click modify. In the primary units tab, there it is at the top left. We're going to change our precision to 0.00, and that's the only thing we're changing for now. Pick OK. Pick close, and you should see the change already. Good. The great thing about a video is you can go back and watch it and work with the assignment a few times. All right. Now, notice here that there's that little gap that's between the point that you picked and the dimension. So it's very important where you pick. So when I start the linear command again right here, I'm just going to click on linear. I want to make sure for this other dimension next to it that I'm clicking up here and not down there. If I click down here, the extension line is going to go over this line, and I'll show you how to clean that up. But here, let's just click here on this corner, and here at this other right-hand side corner. And now this is the other part too. Sometimes it locks in because you can place vertical and horizontal dimensions with this same command. If it kind of locks you into a vertical dimension, pull your mouse over and back up so that you can get it into that that horizontal direction. Now guys, don't just fudge it. Go over to, with your pointer, the end of the existing arrow and then click. If you try to eyeball this, you're going to see that the arrows aren't lined up. So go ahead and click there. Now, because I just drew that, I can right click to repeat the last command that you just used. So right click, pick repeat dim linear. It'll repeat whatever the last command was. Now you're welcome to go back up to the icon each time, but now I'm going to go ahead and click here and here. I'm going to force force my pointer up here so that I can click on the arrow, and there I am. Now, if For some reason, I may have clicked at the wrong corner, which is fine. I'm going to right click and pick dim linear and show you this. I'm going to click on this corner and this corner, although I should have picked that one. I'm going to pull my mouse over and click. And now I have a dimension line that's over the top of an object. It's not a huge deal, although, you know, if you want to see the best CAD practice, best drafting practice, we want to have those little gaps between the objects that we're, you know, dimensioning. So you want to click right on your dimension once, and then you can use these blue grips to change the location of the extension lines just by clicking inside of it. So click on the dimension, click inside the blue grip, pull your mouse over here to the right corner and click. There it is. So now it's all lined up. In fact, you can use these grips to click inside the blue box there close to the number and move that, or the number itself. You know, there's all of these blue boxes give us those choices. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and click on linear. Click here, click on the arrow itself. We're going to right click if you'd like to repeat the dim linear. And I think you get the idea. Look for where those extension lines end. I'm going to go way up the top and way at the bottom and pull my mouse over here far enough away that I can give myself some room to get in here and place these other dimensions. Okay, so you see what I'm doing here? I'm clicking on the corners, I'm clicking on the arrows, I'm making sure that I'm clicking on the endpoints so that I can have a kind of a clean connection. If you happen to click over it, you can use the grips or redo it in order to you know, have that kind of cleaner drawing. You can right click. I put way more dimensions than we would normally see on a print, just for your reference, because some of you may not be familiar with using dimensions. Sometimes we won't put this extra dimension because we can always do the math and figure that out. But there it is. Awesome. We drew the lines here. We made them bolder. We have the dimensions now. Let's take a look at text. We'll put it on the same layer. Keep it simple, right? Let's make sure I'm actually recording. Yep. And so in the annotation panel, we have text. Now click on the arrow underneath text and see that there are two different types of text. One is multi-line and one is single line. Lately, we really want to use multi-line because we never really know if we want to add more text to it. So let's go to here, the arrow, and click on multi-line text. You can kind of see it there because it is the right scale. And what you're doing is you're creating a box, really. You're going to click where you want the text to start, and then just hold, don't hold your left mouse button. No, you want to let go and just move your mouse over and click over here. So you're clicking, pull your mouse over a little bit to the right. Make sure you're giving yourself enough room for that title. Pull your mouse down and click. Now, we're going to use a different title than this one. We're just going to put our cap locks on and type in assignment 1 and press enter. And then just go ahead and type in your name. Now, you'll see it's kind of like a little text editor. Look at the whole ribbon changes. The whole ribbon changes so that you have all these different things that you can do with your text. What we'll do is hold your left mouse button down and drag your mouse across assignment 1 so that we can go up into the ribbon and click on U for underline right there. And now you can click in space or pick the green check mark right here in the ribbon to close out of that that ribbon, that text ribbon. Now guys, if you need to change it again, just double click on it. Usually it's a double click to change things. So double click on your multi-line text. You'll get the whole ribbon of different things that you can do, and at this point you can get in there and change what you need to change, and then click in space. Now if you need to move it, there is kind of a quick way to move objects. You can click on it once instead of double click, and then you could click inside this blue grip. That way you can kind of like move it over a little or move it around and then click again. The only thing about this is those grips really stop you from moving it. So I'm going to suggest that you use this drag and drop idea where you select the object once and then you hold your left mouse button down on the text, not inside the blue box, and you kind of drag it over and let go, and now you have that positioned where you might want it, just kind of like around there. All right, we're getting ready to print. Okay, so let's take a look at printing. That'll be the last thing for this assignment, and it's kind of an introduction to using the screen and getting started with our assignments. So we'll look at the top left here. There's a little printer icon. It says plot, right? But there's also one here in the drop down if you want to go down to print and up to plot. They both will bring you to this dialog box. Now there's a lot here, but we'll be working with this often. When you create here your drawing and you want to send a print to your printer, maybe you have a desk jet. Usually when we're in the classroom, we print these and we create a portfolio. I would recommend that you actually print these so that you can keep a running list of them. I think having a portfolio ready for when people are ready to hire you or maybe change positions in your existing office, you will be ready. So what I'd like to do is have you submit the DWG. Submit the DWG, but also this semester will be the first semester that I'm going to ask you to also submit the PDF. The PDF, so that I know that you created it and that we have documentation of it. So both those files I'm going to ask you to submit because we're going to create them, right? So here under printer plotter name, there are a lot of printers here. And I mean, it shows my printer. It'll probably show your printer. But the one we want to create is this AutoCAD PDF high quality print. And this will help you to create a high quality PDF file that you can use for your portfolio right there. And now there's the 8.5 by 11. We will also be putting a check mark where it says center the plot at the bottom left corner. But this is kind of the hard part. The hard part is where it says plot area, what to plot. We don't want to plot the display because there's too much white space that's on the sides. So we're going to go down to window. And so where it says plot area, what to plot, click on window. What it does is it throws you back into the drawing so that you can click on two corners of what will be like your paper. So I'm just going to click up here at the top right corner and then kind of give yourself the same amount of white space around your drawing. You're kind of creating this this paper that the drawing will scale to. So I'm going to go ahead and click here. And now you see it says plot scale fit to paper. So we're fitting what we have to an 8.5 by 11. If that window was huge, then we would have a really small drawing. It's going to fit to the paper. Later on, we're going to create some custom scales. Okay, so notice here, if you needed to create a new window, we wouldn't be using the drop down anymore, right? Because a new button appears right here called window if we need to go back into it. All right, the top left or top right corner, we have our pen assignments. If we just use none and we send a print to a color printer, it's going to print in color, right? But if we print it to a black and white printer, your yellows and your lighter lines are going to be like a gray, right? So we need to drop this list down and click on monochrome. Monochrome CTB holds the pen assignments as all being black. So let's go ahead and click on monochrome CTB. It's asking if you want to assign it to all the layouts. At the bottom left corner, you're going to see that you have new layouts here. We'll do kind of a quick introduction to that at the end of this printing, just so you know what it is. But for now, we're going to pick yes, because maybe we want all of our layouts to be black and white right there. And now, because we made all these changes, we need to pick apply to layout in order to apply it to this drawing. And then the next time we come back, it's going to stay there, right? So the idea is that if you make any changes to this, like let's say I uncheck this one, you see how the apply to layout is not grayed out anymore? So you want to make sure, even though I put the check mark back in, I still need to pick apply to layout to make it gray. Always preview, always preview. Go ahead and click the preview button at the bottom left corner, and you should see that your drawing is there. It's a preview. When you roll your wheel closer to it, you'll see that the lines are bolder in your preview, and that's what it's going to print as. So you can right click and pick plot, or you can pick that little plotter up there, and it's going to ask you where you want to put that PDF that you're creating. And so we are creating here a PDF of assignment 1. So go over to the folder that you're going to put that in, and just use this this default name assignment 1 model and pick save. It should be the same folder there, and now you have your new drawing that you just created, and this is the one that you would then post. So you're going to post 2 files this semester, the DWG and the PDF, so that we can have that one documented. The other thing I want to point out to you, and I'm going to go ahead and close these tabs, is that when you save the file, you created a DWG, but if you save it again, so if you go up to the red A or the floppy disk icon and you pick save, you just created another file in that same folder with a BAK backup extension. So make sure you're not posting in Canvas the backup file. It needs to be the DWG file that you're uploading or posting. All right, and now just a quick introduction, because the video is getting a little bit long. At the bottom left corner, we are going to start working in model. We're going to be in the model space for most of, like, half of the semester. But if you click on layout 1 at the bottom left, I just want to show you this, but this is not where we're going to be staying. It's a sheet of paper. It's a sheet of paper with the dash lines for the margin, and there's kind of like this viewport hole that shows you the drawings that they're in the model. So it's like a sheet of paper on top of the model. If I double click inside here, this box, you can see that, you know, it's like a hole in the paper. Anyways, this is not something that we're ready to go to yet. I'm going to double click outside in the gray area to get out of that kind of hole there. Where we want to go, no matter what just happened for you in the layout 1, we want to click on model at the bottom left corner, and that's where we want to keep the drawing. Okay, so save the file just so you can save it. Hey guys, when you save the file, whatever your last save was is what's going to show up in the preview, you know, those thumbnails. So like if you zoom up way like that and then you save the file, that's what you're going to see. So that's why I kind of get into the habit of, you know, of either double clicking on the wheel of the mouse so that you can have, you know, this drawing and then saving it. Okay, that is the beginnings of what we're working with. This is brand new to you. Don't get too worried about it all. We're going to be working with this often, so coming back in and using some of those same tools and then adding to it. All right, hope you're having fun with this. We will see you for the next assignment. Have a great one. And keep in touch with me if you have any questions or need some help.